Alright, welcome back to today's video. Today what we're going to discuss is what is microfiber, how is it made, what are the requirements to be considered microfiber, and its role in hospitals. Okay, so here's what microfiber is. It's the picture on the left, cotton is on the right. So these images are taken underneath what they call an SEM electron microscope. So you can see the electron microscope image of microfiber. It looks like a little star, like an asterisk, and the cotton looks like a little tube. So why is this so important to know? Well, compare it to this. Let's say you go outside and you see a mound of dirt. You see two pieces of equipment that you can choose from, either a steel pipe or a shovel to move the dirt. You first pick up the steel pipe and you try rolling it out like a rolling pin. That is what cotton does with pathogens, bacteria, dirt, grime, and very small particles. It's like trying to roll out dirt with a rolling pin. Microfiber, on the other hand, is like a water wheel or a shovel. It picks it up and brings it into itself, where it holds it into the fiber. Now, depending on the cloth you have, some microfibers have the ability to self-sanitize, such as Norwex, using the backlock silver technology, or you have to wash them and rinse them out. So as you can see in this picture, kind of how it works. Now, don't get me wrong, I love cotton. It has its place, comfy clothes, tablecloths, blankets, but in the medical field with cleaning, cotton is not the best idea. In fact, in order to be considered a cleaning product for a hospital, it has to pass two different tests. That will be in the next video. Okay, so here is one process of actually how a microfiber is made. There's two processes. This one, it's called the melt blowing process or the extrusion process. They're very similar except the very end stages. So the first stage of both of them, you have a polymer tank, which is where your liquid synthetic plastic microfiber material is. Now remember, microfiber is synthetic. It's a man-made plastic. So we have this liquid polymer tank. Inside that tank, they add ionic silver, which is mixed thoroughly into the tank, so every fiber will have silver in it. This is what makes it so unique. It's not just silver threads through it, it's actually in each individual thread. Okay, so this polymer goes through this feeding unit, the polymer melt does, and then it goes down in this chamber where hot air blows it out of a thinner, long nozzle, so to speak. And as it hits the cooler air of the atmosphere, it turns into very fine threads that are solid. And then it hits this drum and it sticks. What the difference between melt blowing and extrusion is, instead of being blown onto a drum, they push it through a little, they're called dies. They're like little stamps. And think of a cookie cutter and just pushing dough through a cookie cutter. It's not liquid polymer at that stage, nor is it solid polymer. It's actually what we call at the glass transition stage. It's in between melting and freezing point. So it goes through this cookie cutter and it turns into extruded plastic and these very fine threads. Those are the two ways that microfiber is made. Now the next slide I'm going to talk about the math of it and how the industry standard determines what is considered a microfiber. On the previous slide you did see where it has to be considered 1 denier, and denier means a unit of mass per meter, and in our case it's, let's see, it's 1 denier per 9,000 meters of microfiber, which means that it has to be 0.11 milligrams per meter of microfiber. So if I were to grab 1 meter of microfiber and measure it out and then weigh it, it would weigh 0.11 milligrams. It has to be equivalent to that or less to be deemed microfiber. Okay, so this brings us up to the next portion of micron and particle size. And this is excruciatingly important to understand because everything to do with cleaning, germs, pathogens, viruses, bugs, and proteins are all based on particle size. So understanding this will help you as either a client in buying the product or as a consultant in selling it. Okay, the human hair is 70 microns. 1 micron is 1,000th of a millimeter, so it takes 1,000 microns to make a single millimeter. Industry standard for microfiber is 1/100th of a human hair. Okay, so bare minimum is 0.7 microns for microfiber. For Norwex, our standard is 1/200th of a human hair, twice the industry standard for medical microfiber cleaning cloths. That equates to 0.3 microns per fiber. Now these two numbers are extremely important, 0.7 microns and 0.3 microns. Okay, in the world of microbiology, when we are breathing out and coughing and sneezing, the smallest aerosolized particles we breathe out when we're talking or just breathing in general are 0.75 microns. The largest is about 1 micron for aerosolized particles, and then you can get larger like when you sneeze and you can see the particles. I mean, obviously those are really big particles. But the importance between 0.7 and 3 microns is if you're infected with the flu and you go to someone's house and you're breathing, those particles are getting on the surface. Now, a virus has to have a host in order to reproduce and infect a human. So, those host cells that a virus takes over, because it needs its organs, it needs its tissues, it needs its lipids, its proteins, and whatever else makes that cell to reproduce. So, without that host cell, no virus. Now, host cells are very large in comparison to a virus. A host cell is 0.75 microns to 3 microns in size. So when you take your microfiber cloth and you wipe up a host cell, which is usually bacteria or whatever else we have in us, bacteria are the same size as host cells. You remove those host cells, you have no way to infect another human with that flu virus. Now let's say worst case scenario is you forget to wipe it up, evaporation happens, and those host cells evaporate, leaving a virus body on your counter. The beauty is viruses go dormant without a host cell. They start to inactivate and deteriorate. They can stay about 24 to 48 hours on surfaces depending on what the surface is. If it's a metal surface, it's very short time because of another process called the oligodynamic effect, and this is how silver works, and that will be in the next video. Okay, so these viruses get left on the counter bar. Well, they're very small, 0.125 microns in size. So what do we do there? And this is where I kind of leave off because I don't want to spoil the fun. So that will be in the next video. And I'll also explain why the 0.3 microns is so important, also in the next video. So thank you and stay tuned.